I started my full-fledged preparation after I joined the Ultimate Assessment Program at Civilsdaily.
There is a 12-month strategy which I have done on Civilsdaily platform only.
I reached out to the Civilsdaily team.
Civilsdaily. Current affairs में Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily. With Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily.
Civilsdaily IAS. Civilsdaily. To Civilsdaily.
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 A mentorship program of Civilsdaily, and that did help me a lot.
Do you think we should engage with Pakistan? Right now, its status is questionable, but I think it is. We said no talks till terror stops, etc. Isn't it? Tell me, in the present global context, the conflicts going on, is there any opportunity for us to get our place in the sun, to really be able to make a difference?
Political matters are also involved with regards to the parties and their interactions, especially keeping in mind that the elections are coming up. That may have been a positive factor. Israel-Hamas war presents a bigger opportunity, and India has been taking steps. Constitution by Article 246 does provide the system of 3 lists, but the concurrent list and the doctrine of federal supremacy has been an area of contention.
Good evening, Ayan. Can you see me and hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. Where are you located right now?
Currently in Bhopal, ma'am.
Okay, so you have not joined the IPS as yet?
Ma'am, I have joined and taken extraordinary leave.
Achha, you've taken extraordinary. Because some of your batchmates in NPA I have spoken to. All right. And when is your interview?
13th March, ma'am.
Oh, close by, huh? Okay.
Yes.
So what sort of interview do you want? Easy, difficult, medium?
As you deem fit, ma'am, perhaps more difficult.
You want more difficult. Okay. You opted for only foreign service and IAS, right? Now tell me, Ukraine and Gaza, I think that India as an emerging, we call ourselves an emerging superpower, we lost an opportunity for a place in the sun. We were in the margins of the whole thing. We flip-flopped, sometimes we abstained, sometimes we voted, sometimes we supported a country, then we said, no, we're humanitarian, etc., etc. But we were really never on the high table at all. At all. Tell me, in the present global context, the conflicts going on, is there any opportunity for us to get our place in the sun, to really be able to make a difference?
Ma'am, I do feel that the opportunity is there. Certainly, India will have to take a cautioned approach.
No, there are many conflicts, many things
Yes,
happen.
ma'am.
So which do you think is the most, offers the best opportunity to us? And we've taken it up to some extent only. Which offers the best opportunity? The global conflicts happening.
Ma'am, I feel the Israel-Hamas war presents a bigger opportunity. And India has been taking steps. For example, in the Munich conference, Honorable External Affairs Minister mentioned that Israel has an international obligation towards humanitarian aspects. And we have also been talking about the terrorist act committed by Hamas.
Perhaps you will agree with me when I say that making a difference, we have not made any difference in that. We have not suggested any solution. We have gone with the tide this way or that way. Even little tiny Qatar now. Qatar and Egypt have suggested. They are on the high table, right? But we are not there. So is there any... Anyway, we'll move on. We'll move on to something else and let's see. Now, China. My question is very limited. I'm not talking handling China diplomatically or militarily or anything. If today we were to say that China has seeped into our economy, when we are looking at import substitution or phasing out China or whatever, what should be our criteria for selecting priority goods to compete with China or get China out? You understand my question? I'm not even talking of import substitution. I'm just saying, what should be our criteria to your mind?
Ma'am, number one, I feel it should not be an essential good for which if we stop engaging with China, our own supply or produce will be
Quite right. Your connectivity signal is gone. No sound. Freeze ho gaya.
Secondly, ma'am, goods where India can outcompete China. perhaps where China.
You know, your net is bad.
Ma'am,
Your internet is
I
bad.
just changed my net.
You just freeze.
Ma'am, I've changed the internet to a different one.
Okay, right. Yes. So what were you saying? The first one you said shouldn't be so important that we get disrupted. All right. What else?
Ma'am, second, I feel one where China is not doing particularly well. So India has huge export potential also.
And you give
Without
examples. Give examples.
Yes. Ma'am. Sorry, ma'am, I will have to recheck once.
Okay, doesn't matter. It's okay. You know, Niti Aayog actually had floated a tender last year. And what is really identified is criticality of that particular thing to our economy. For example, APIs, renewables. You know, we are not looking at high value, we're not looking at per se high tech. We're looking at that which is actually critical to our economy so that we can at least stop that reliance on China. They squeeze APIs and our pharma industry is dead.
Yes, ma'am.
That way, you know, it's not high value. It is not this, to my mind. It's of course a question where it's a question of what your opinion is. But this sort of a question you have to think, you know.
Yes,
Niti Aayog had floated, you may like to read that up. Now, the third area where we can look at is there's a lot of tension between center and states of the sort we have never seen before. There is always some pushes and pulls in because we have a federal constitution with a unitary bias. So what I want you to tell me is, what does the constitution provide? Center states. And what is it that now, partly because the constitution has become more exacerbated and partly otherwise also that is causing this?
Ma'am, the Constitution by Article 246 does provide the system of three lists, but the concurrent list and the doctrine of federal supremacy has been an area of contention because if the states have legislated on a particular matter, but the center also enacts a law on that matter, then the center's law prevails. This has often been.
But that is not a conflict today.
Yes,
center happily doing everything before the states even get in. So,
yes.
so I don't think that's really the issue. There are other provisions also in the constitution.
Yes. Ma'am, one of them is with respect to the office of governor and the discretionary powers under Article 163 and 165. The reservation of bills has often caused a conflict, ma'am.
Yes. What is it that is beyond the constitution that is causing conflicts today? There's that too.
Ma'am, I believe political matters are also involved with regards to the parties and their interactions, especially keeping in mind that the elections are coming up. That may have been a causative factor.
Okay. Don't you think the allocation of funds is also getting weaponized more and more? I mean, Kerala has now taken the government of India to the Supreme Court because the installment of GST has not been released, right? And Kerala is facing a fiscal crisis. So what should be the situation? What is the mechanism that can be there to resolve this?
Ma'am, certainly.
I picked up the most extreme case in my point. There are many such things happening.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the GST compensation issue has been going on since 2017, and hopefully in the next few years it will be resolved, ma'am. It should be carried forward in the most transparent manner. For example, with respect to the submission of applications regarding how much money is left to be transferred.
Oh, how
and what
do
are the
you prevent a situation of this? To get out of diplomacy and get into real opinions, how do you suggest a solution? One of this. Second, the behavior of governors. I mean, our Kerala one is doing a sit-ins at the side of a road. The Tamil Nadu one refuses to to sign any bills enacted. The Jharkhand person, for 1 year, he's withholding the election commission guidelines, etc., etc. So, what is the solution?
Ma'am, regarding the financial allocation issue, ma'am, perhaps the Finance Commission can play a greater role in deciding the allocation and
Decide, but the release has to be done by the center, no?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the center must always give reasons for the delay in the release of funds. And perhaps, ma'am, the office of the any lacunae. Ma'am, regarding the issue of governors, ma'am, firstly, I would say that any action conducted by the governor, whether it is withholding assent or reserving a bill for the Honorable President, must be followed up by clear explanation as to why this was done.
I'm asking
Yes,
you for institutional correction. These are firefighting and
Yes,
must
ma'am.
be, but who's going to do it? There has to be some institutional correction. What is that? What are institutional mechanisms to sort out this center-state conflicts happening everywhere, wherever there's an opposition part, different parties in power at the center or the states?
Ma'am, first could be a change in the manner of appointment of the office of governor to take into mind consultation with the state government. Secondly, ma'am, the interstate councils can play a greater role in discussions on relevant matters.
All right. Do you think we should engage with Pakistan? Right now, its status is questionable, but I think it is, we said no talks till terror stops, etc., isn't it? So now with this government, no doubt the old government getting elected again, do you think we should engage or we should just wait and watch? What do you think we should do?
Ma'am, I believe Pakistan being our immediate neighbor, engagement is inevitable.
But
Ma'am,
we have said no, that no, till terror is there, we will not talk. No talks till
Yes,
terror
ma'am.
finishes. So you think we should
Ma'am,
talk to them?
Ma'am, certainly terrorism cannot be tolerated, and we have to augment our own defense capacities and border management. But also, ma'am, perhaps having a stabilized Pakistan with a strong democracy will be in our favor also, which it will lead to less fertile ground for terrorism or any antagony of Pakistan towards India.
Okay, my last question. What are the limitations on solar energy in India? One would think being a hot country, there's a lot of potential that we know. What are the limitations?
Ma'am, first is the variability of solar power. Secondly, ma'am, storage of solar power is not feasible. We do not have adequate research with respect to supercapacitors yet. Thirdly, ma'am, the efficiency of solar panels as of now is quite low. It is around 30%. Ma'am, then the solar power is obtained in direct current form. It has to be converted into alternate current before it can be transmitted. And fifth is also, ma'am, the large land requirements for solar parks and plants.
So we are fully self-reliant in solar panels?
Ma'am, I will certainly check, but ma'am, I believe that a lot of key ingredients of solar panels, including rare earth metals, are sourced from China and other countries, ma'am.
That was also one of the limitations. That's why I said it.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ayan, formally, this is the interaction. Now, I'll just give you some feedback. Huh?
Yes,
Sometimes I feel that you don't answer the question directly. You go a little at a tangent. You need to understand the question and answer it. And there is really no need for building up the background. It's an interview. It's not a main, right? And I'm talking with reference to the center state question that I asked last of all. And I asked you all difficult questions. I'll admit that. I asked you before what difficulty level. So I did not ask easy questions. I asked those that were sensitive also. And I asked those that were thinking questions. So if the answer, you're not happy with your answer, don't worry about that. I was lifting the level. So as far as the center state thing is concerned, what was really expected, and you want to be safe also, if I were you, I would have attempted it differently. I would have said, okay, since I said constitutional provisions are X, Y, Z, and these are the ones which are not causing problem, these are ones that are causing friction. Like this thing, dismissing the government, it's never been used. The provision for...
sorry, ma'am, the last part got cut, ma'am.
Huh?
Sorry, ma'am, last part got cut, ma'am, internet issue.
Sorry?
Ma'am, could you please repeat the last part?
What I was saying was that dismissing governments, has the central government dismissed any state government?
In the past, ma'am, for president rule, yes, ma'am.
When? Now? When this friction is happening? Last couple of years?
Ma'am, the Jammu and Kashmir government was dismissed, ma'am.
That was in a different context, no?
Yes.
But otherwise, they have not used that provision at all.
Yes.
Which, when you are saying the positives of those parts of the constitution which are very draconian, which are yet not causing a problem, what I'm saying is to give a balanced picture on such a difficult question, you have to say the positives too. The negative side is the role of the governor, Definitely. You never even breathe central agencies anywhere. You never even breathe the word central agencies, which is the use of central agencies, use of the office of the governor. These are things. And as you said, Dabe Zuban aapne bola about the appointment of the governor, the tenure. Yes, that is where institutional, I hinted to you, institutional changes are needed to give us
Yes.
more tenure, more security, because they are constitutional functionaries who are impartial. So
Yes.
this one, I would say that you should prepare. Then, of course, we did not get into the 16th Finance Commission. We did not get into the southern states wanting more. So maybe you might like to revolve in your mind and prepare what you think should be a formula for that.
Yes.
Compensating the south, then the delimitation issue. So think these things through, right? I didn't have time to ask the delimitation. China, I already discussed with you. To my mind, and this is again subjective, our place in the sun, you know, I think this policing of the Red Sea, Bab el-Mandeb, Somalia,
Yes.
all that is something where we are actually suddenly projecting ourselves as an important power, naval power. And we are solving a problem which is a global issue. We may not have joined hands with the US, but we've rescued Sri Lankan ships with Pakistanis, we've rescued Irani ships, all kinds of ships we have rescued. So that's a place where we can actually make our place in the sun. Don't you think?
Yes.
And there the issue is how much should be the degree. And you can check out the defense minister's speech or memo or a statement or something, which talks about whether we should be a net secure, whether we should be a first responder, whether we should best friend, or whether we should be net security provider. So you might like to prepare this. But that's an opportunity for us. This is an opportunity. We've not done so well in Ukraine or in Gaza, frankly speaking. So we flip-flopped, and where is two-state solution? They're going to finish it. It was very clear that Israel is going to drive the Palestinians out and there's no state left. Second state, that's very, very clear. Issue, where will they go? They'll probably go to the other part where they are. So, so that one, you can bring this in.
Yeah.
Your solar energy one was very nicely analyzed, but all aspects you should perhaps prepare. What I suggest is things like this, where, or like becoming a developed country, that 5 trillion economy by 2047. These things, the pathway, you might like to prepare that.
Yes.
These are difficult ones. Then your electrical, I do not know how much you asked in your interview about your electrical engineering applied aspects of this. This is where you should prepare it, be it in railways or be it in EVs or be it whatever. Then electrical engineering leading on to the whole technology issue, AI, this, that, because you're a technocrat, got that background. So that you might like to prepare. And again, prepare with that lens of where is India? The whole bigger issue, and where is India? That is the lens I would request for you. I did not have time to ask about the police reforms and the police commissioner. Please, when you say if you ask the merits and demerits of police commissionership, please give both sides of it. You are a police officer, so you cannot be this thing, but yet you are a police officer, so you cannot ignore you're aspiring for the IAS, you cannot ignore the magistracy and the credibility of the magistracy. Basically, that's the only the raison d'etre there. I think broadly, this is what I think. Of course, I hear that you are very lucky, and interacting with you, unlucky. Interacting with you, I can understand that you just missed it by a whisker, and hopefully you will not miss it by a whisker this time. Okay.
Thank you.
So is there anything you want to ask me, or you are clear? Next, I request my fellow panelist to then complete the interview.
Ma'am, not from within this, ma'am.
Sorry?
No doubt from this, ma'am.
Okay.
No doubt from this.
Ma'am, but otherwise I wanted to ask, ma'am,
Yes.
sometimes when question is asked about why IFS as second preference, ma'am, I feel my answer is not yet very convincing.
What's your answer?
Ma'am, it is that I find the kind of work very appealing. And I also feel that working in different countries is an excellent opportunity and something that I find very appealing.
I would say that in this era of globalization, foreign policy becomes extremely important. Also, India is now making a very big thrust in the international arena. So you want to be part of that process to represent your country and to help in policy making, which will impact the whole world. I would have looked at that aspect, a little more ambitious,
Yes.
Because really that's so. If you're in certain key positions, you actually make the foreign policy.
Yes.
So that is definitely a big thing. And you also want to have the pride of representing your country, because that you can represent in anything. I mean, the IAS,
Yes.
you represent your country wherever you go, but more the globalization, India emerging superpower, that line would be very good.
Yes.
And foreign policy, I mean, we feel that our national interests lie with, in the foreign policy, you can also push your national interests in the committee, take its place in the Committee of Nations. Sort of thing would be good, I think.
Understood.
You're all set, you're mature, you're young, but mature and balanced. But the opinion ones, just, I would suggest that from your current affairs, what's happening now, do prepare some, at least 10, 15 difficult opinion, UCC, prepare these
Yes.
opinions, because in your case, I think knowledge base is not going to be the issue. It is going to be a question of opinion. How well you do it. I don't know, in your last interview, were you asked a lot of opinion questions?
Not a lot, ma'am. Mostly from my DAF, ma'am.
Okay. Well, an opinion question, if a candidate is asked, that means that he's crossed the first bar.
Yes.
And if he does well in that, then that's a winner straight away. Okay. So all the best, Ayan. Hope to see you
Thank
on
you,
Monday.